Slovenia is a country in southern Central Europe. Bordered by Italy to the west, Austria to the north, Hungary to the northeast, Croatia to the south and southeast, and a short coastline within the Adriatic Sea to the southwest. Slovenia is mostly mountainous and forested, covers 20,271 square kilometers with a population of approximately 2.1 million. Slovene is the official language. Slovenia has a predominantly temperate continental climate with the exception of the Slovene littoral and the Julian Alps. Ljubljana, the capital and largest city of Slovenia, is geographically situated near the center of the country. Other larger urban centers are Maribor, Kranj, Celje and Koper. Slovenia's territory has been part of many different states: Roman Empire, Byzantine Empire, Carolingian Empire, Holy Roman Empire, Kingdom of Hungary, Republic of Venice, Illyrian provinces of Napoleon's First French Empire, Austrian Empire, and Austro-Hungarian Empire. In October 1918, Slovenes co-founded State of Slovenes, Croats, and Serbs. In December 1918, they merged with Kingdom of Montenegro and Kingdom of Serbia into Kingdom of Yugoslavia. During World War II, Germany, Italy and Hungary occupied and annexed Slovenia with a tiny area transferred to the independent state of Croatia, a newly declared Nazi puppet state. In 1945, it again became part of Yugoslavia. Post-war, Yugoslavia was allied with the Eastern Bloc, but after the Tito-Stalin split of 1948, it never subscribed to the Warsaw Pact and in 1961 became one of the founders of the non-aligned movement. In June 1991, Slovenia declared independence from Yugoslavia and became an independent sovereign state. Slovenia is a developed country, with a high-income economy ranking highly in the Human Development Index. The Gini coefficient rates its income inequality among the lowest in the world. It is a member of the United Nations, the European Union, the Eurozone, the Schengen area, the OSCE, the OECD, the Council of Europe and NATO. Slovenia was ranked 34th in the Global Innovation Index in 2024. Prehistory. Present-day Slovenia has been inhabited since prehistoric times. There is evidence of human habitation from around 250,000 years ago. A pierced cave barebone, dating from 43,100 plus or minus 700 BP, found in 1995 in Divya Babe Cave near Cerkno, is considered a kind of flute and possibly the oldest musical instrument discovered in the world. In 1920s and 1930s, artifacts belonging to the Cro-Magnon such as pierced bones, bone points and a needle were found by archaeologist Shriko Brodar in Potok Cave. In 2002, remains of pile dwellings over 4,500 years old were discovered in the Ljubljana Marsh, now protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, along with the Ljubljana Marsh's wooden wheel, the oldest wooden wheel in the world. It shows that wooden wheels appeared almost simultaneously in Mesopotamia and Europe. In the transition period between Bronze Age to Iron Age, the Urnfield culture flourished. Archaeological remains dating from the Hallstatt period have been found, particularly in southeastern Slovenia, among them a number of Sichulas in Novo Mesto, the town of Sichulas. Roman era. Romans established posts at Emona, Ljubljana, Poetovio, Tuj, and Celje, Celje, and constructed trade and military roads that ran across Slovene territory from Italy to Pannonia. In 5th and 6th centuries, the area was subject to invasions by Huns and Germanic tribes during their incursions into Italy. A part of the inner state was protected with a defensive line of towers and walls called Claustra Alpium Iuliarum. A crucial battle between Theodosius I and Eugenius took place in the Vipava Valley in 394. Slavic settlement. The Slavic tribes migrated to the Alpine area after the westward departure of the Lombards, last Germanic tribe, in 568. Under pressure from Avars, established a Slavic settlement in the Eastern Alps. From 623 to 624 or possibly 626 onwards, King Samo united the Alpine and Western Slavs against the Avars and Germanic peoples and established what is referred to as Samo's kingdom. After its disintegration following Samo's death in 658 or 659, the ancestors of the Slovenes located in present-day Carinthia formed the independent Duchy of Carantania and Carniola, later Duchy Carniola. Other parts of present-day Slovenia were again ruled by Avars before Charlemagne's victory over them in 803. Early modern period. After dissolution of Republic of Venice in 1797, Venetian Slovenia was passed to Austrian Empire. The Slovene lands were part of the French-administered Illyrian provinces established by Napoleon, Austrian Empire, and Austria-Hungary. Slovenes inhabited most of Carniola, the southern part of the duchies of Carinthia and Styria, the northern and eastern areas of the Austrian littoral, as well as Prekmurje in the Kingdom of Hungary. Industrialization was accompanied by construction of railroads to link cities and markets, but the urbanization was limited. Due to limited opportunities, between 1880 and 1910, there was extensive emigration. About 300,000 Slovenes emigrated to other countries, mostly to the US but also South America, the main part to Argentina, Germany, Egypt, and to larger cities in Austria-Hungary, especially Vienna and Graz. Despite this emigration, the population of Slovenia increased significantly. The 19th century also saw a revival of culture in Slovene, accompanied by a romantic nationalist quest for cultural and political autonomy. The idea of a united Slovenia, first advanced during the revolutions of 1848, became the common platform of most Slovenian parties and political movements in Austria-Hungary. During the same period, Yugoslavism, an ideology stressing the unity of all South Slavic peoples, spread as a reaction to pan-German nationalism and Italian irredentism. World War I brought heavy casualties to Slovenes, particularly the 12 battles of the Isonzo, which took place in present-day Slovenia's western border area with Italy. Hundreds of thousands of Slovene conscripts were drafted into the Austro-Hungarian army, and over 30,000 of them died. Hundreds of thousands of Slovenes from princely county of Gorizia and Gradiška were resettled in refugee camps in Italy and Austria. While the refugees in Austria received decent treatment, the Slovene refugees in Italian camps were treated as state enemies, and several thousand died of malnutrition and diseases between 1915 and 1918. Entire areas of the Slovene littoral were destroyed. The Treaty of Rapallo of 1920 left approximately 327,000 out of the total population of 1.3 million Slovenes in Italy. After the fascists took power in Italy, they were subjected to a policy of violent fascist Italianization. This caused the mass emigration of Slovenes, especially the middle class, from the Slovene littoral and Trieste to Yugoslavia and South America. Those who remained organized several connected networks of both passive and armed resistance. The best known was the militant anti-fascist organization Tiger, formed in 1927 to fight fascist oppression of the Slovene and Croat populations in the Julian March. Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. Followed by Kingdom of Yugoslavia. The Slovene People's Party launched a movement for self-determination, demanding the creation of a semi-independent South Slavic state under Habsburg rule. The proposal was picked up by most Slovene parties, and a mass mobilization of Slovene civil society known as Declaration Movement followed. This demand was rejected by Austrian political elites, but following the dissolution of Austro-Hungarian Empire in the aftermath of First World War, the National Council of Slovenes, Croats, and Serbs took power in Zagreb on 6 October 1918. On 29 October, independence was declared by a national gathering in Ljubljana and Croatian parliament, declaring the establishment of the new state of Slovenes, Croats, and Serbs. On 1 December 1918, state of Slovenes, Croats, and Serbs merged with Serbia, becoming part of the new Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. In 1929, it was renamed Kingdom of Yugoslavia. The main territory of Slovenia, being the most industrialized and westernized compared to other less developed parts of Yugoslavia, became the main center of industrial production. Compared to Serbia, Slovenian industrial production was 4 times greater and 22 times greater than North Macedonia. The interwar period brought further industrialization in Slovenia with rapid economic growth in the 1920s, followed by a relatively successful economic adjustment to the 1929 economic crisis and Great Depression. Following a plebiscite in October 1920, Slovene-speaking southern Carinthia was ceded to Austria. With the Treaty of Trianon, the Kingdom of Yugoslavia was awarded the mostly Slovene-inhabited Prekmurje region, formerly part of Austria-Hungary. Slovenes living in territories that fell under the rule of the neighboring states such as Italy, Austria, and Hungary were subjected to assimilation. World War II. Slovenia was the only present-day European nation that was trisected and completely annexed into both Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy during World War II. In addition, Prekmurje region in the east was annexed to Hungary, and some villages in the lower Sava Valley were incorporated in the newly created Nazi puppet independent state of Croatia. Axis forces invaded Yugoslavia in April 1941 and defeated the country in a few weeks. The southern part, including Ljubljana, was annexed to Italy, while Nazis took over the northern and eastern parts of the country. The Nazis had a plan of ethnic cleansing of these areas, and they resettled or expelled the local Slovene civilian population to the puppet states of Nedić, Serbia and NDH. In addition, some 46,000 Slovenes were expelled to Germany, including children who were separated from their parents and allocated to German families. At the same time, ethnic Germans in the Gotski enclave in the Italian annexation zone were resettled to the Nazi-controlled areas, cleansed of their Slovene population. Around 30,000 to 40,000 Slovene men were drafted to the German army and sent to the Eastern Front. Slovene was banned from education, and its use in public life was limited. In south-central Slovenia, annexed by Fascist Italy and renamed Province of Ljubljana, Slovenian National Liberation Front was organized in April 1941. Led by the Communist Party, it formed the Slovene partisan units as part of the Yugoslav partisans led by the communist leader Josip Broz Tito. After the resistance started in summer 1941, Italian violence against the Slovene civilian population escalated. The Italian authorities deported 25,000 people to concentration camps, which equaled 7.5% of the population of their occupation zone. The most infamous ones were Rab and Gonas. To counter the communist-led insurgents, the Italian-sponsored local anti-guerrilla units, formed mostly by the local conservative Catholic Slovene population that resented the revolutionary violence of the partisans. After the Italian armistice of September 1943, Germans took over both the province of Ljubljana and the Slovenian littoral, incorporating them into what was known as the Operation Zone of Adriatic Coastal Region. They united the Slovene anti-communist counterinsurgents into the Slovene Home Guard and appointed a puppet regime in the province of Ljubljana. The anti-Nazi resistance, however, expanded, creating its own administrative structures as the basis for Slovene statehood within a new, federal and socialist Yugoslavia. In 1945, Yugoslavia was liberated by the partisan resistance and soon became a socialist federation known as People's Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. The first Slovenian republic, named Federal Slovenia, was a constituent republic of the Yugoslavian Federation, led by its own pro-communist leadership. Approximately 8% of the Slovene population died during World War II. The small Jewish community, mostly in the Prekmurje region, perished in 1944 in the Holocaust of Hungarian Jews. The German-speaking minority, amounting to 2.5% of the Slovenian population prior to the war, was either expelled or killed in the aftermath of the war. Hundreds of Istrian Italians and Slovenes that opposed communism were killed in the Foibe massacres, and more than 25,000 fled or were expelled from Slovenian Istria. Around 130,000 persons, mostly political and military opponents, were executed in May and June 1945. Socialism. During re-establishment of Yugoslavia in World War II, the first Slovenian Republic, Federal Slovenia, was created and it became part of Federal Yugoslavia. It was a socialist state, but because of the Tito-Stalin split in 1948, economic and personal freedoms were much broader than in the Eastern Bloc countries. In 1947, Slovene littoral and the western half of Inner Carniola, which had been annexed by Italy after World War I, were annexed to Slovenia. The late 1950s saw a policy of liberalization in the cultural sphere, and unlimited border crossing into Western countries was allowed for both Yugoslav citizens and foreigners. In 1956, Josip Broz Tito, together with other leaders, founded the non-aligned movement. In the 1950s, Slovenia's economy developed rapidly and was strongly industrialized. With further economic decentralization of Yugoslavia in 1965 to 1966, Slovenia's domestic product was 2.5 times the average of Yugoslav republics. While a communist country after the Tito-Stalin split, Yugoslavia initiated a period of military neutrality and non-alignment. JAT Yugoslav Airlines was the flag carrier, and during its existence it grew to become one of the leading airlines in Europe, both by fleet and destinations. By the 1970s more airlines were created, including Slovenian Adria Airways, mostly focused in the growing tourist industry. Until the 1980s, Slovenia enjoyed relatively broad autonomy within the federation. It was the most liberal communist state in Europe. The passport of Yugoslavia Federation allowed Yugoslavians to travel to any socialist country during the Cold War. Many people worked in Western countries, which reduced unemployment in their home country. Opposition to the regime was mostly limited to intellectual and literary circles, and became especially vocal after Tito's death in 1980, when the economic and political situation in Yugoslavia became very strained. Political disputes around economic measures were echoed in the public sentiment, as many Slovenians felt they were being economically exploited, having to sustain an expensive and inefficient federal administration. Slovenian Spring, Democracy and Independence. In 1987, a group of intellectuals demanded Slovene independence in the 57th edition of the magazine Nova Revija. Demands for democratization and more Slovenian independence were sparked off. A mass democratic movement, coordinated by the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, pushed the communists in the direction of democratic reforms. In September 1989, numerous constitutional amendments were passed to introduce parliamentary democracy to Slovenia. On the 7th of March 1990, Slovenian Assembly changed the official name of the state to Republic of Slovenia. In April 1990, the first democratic election in Slovenia took place and the United Opposition Movement Demos led by Joe Punic emerged victorious. The initial revolutionary events in Slovenia predated the revolutions of 1989 in Eastern Europe by almost a year, but went largely unnoticed by international observers. On the 23rd of December 1990, more than 88% of the electorate voted for a sovereign and independent Slovenia. On the 25th of June 1991, Slovenia became independent. On the 27th of June in the early morning, Yugoslav People's Army dispatched its forces to prevent further measures for the establishment of a new country, which led to the 10-day war. On the 7th of July, Brejuni Agreement was signed, implementing a truce and a 3-month halt of the enforcement of Slovenia's independence. At the end of the month, the last soldiers of the Yugoslav army left Slovenia. In December 1991, a new constitution was adopted, followed in 1992 by the laws on denationalization and privatization. Members of European Union recognized Slovenia as an independent state on the 15th of January 1992, and the United Nations accepted it as a member on the 22nd of May 1992. Slovenia joined the European Union on the 1st of May 2004. Slovenia has one commissioner in the European Commission, and 7 Slovene parliamentarians were elected to the European Parliament at elections on the 13th of June 2004. In 2004, Slovenia also joined NATO. Slovenia subsequently succeeded in meeting the Maastricht criteria and joined the Eurozone, the first transition country to do so, on the 1st of January 2007. It was the first post-communist country to hold presidency of the Council of European Union for the first 6 months of 2008. On the 21st of July 2010, it became a member of the OECD. The disillusionment with domestic socio-economic elites at municipal and national levels was expressed at the 2012 to 2013 Slovenian protests on a wider scale than in the smaller the 15th of October 2011 protests. Geography. Slovenia is in Central Europe, touching the Alps and bordering the Mediterranean Sea. At regional conference in Prague in 1994, the International Geographical Union placed Slovenia among the 9 Central European countries. It lies between latitudes 45 degrees and 47 degrees north and longitudes 13 degrees and 17 degrees east. The 15th meridian east almost corresponds to the middle line of the country in the direction west-east. It lies in Slivna in the municipality of Litija. Slovenia's highest peak is Triglav, 2,864 meters. The country's average height above sea level is 557 meters. 4 major European geographic regions meet in Slovenia: the Alps, Dinarides, Pannonian Plain and Mediterranean Sea. Although on the shore of the Adriatic Sea near the Mediterranean Sea, most of Slovenia is in the Black Sea drainage basin. The Alps, including the Julian Alps, Kamnik-Savinja Alps, Karawank Chain, and Pohorj Massif, dominate northern Slovenia along its long border with Austria. Slovenia's Adriatic coastline stretches approximately 47 kilometers from Italy to Croatia. The term karst topography refers to that of southwestern Slovenia's karst plateau, a limestone region of underground rivers, gorges and caves between Ljubljana and Mediterranean Sea. On the Pannonian Plain to the east and northeast, toward Croatian and Hungarian borders, the landscape is essentially flat. However, most of Slovenia is hilly or mountainous, with around 90% of its land surface 200 meters or more above sea level. More than half of Slovenia, which is 11,823 kilometers, is forested, ranking it third in Europe, after Finland and Sweden. The areas are covered mostly by beech, fir beech and beech oak forests and have high production capacity. Remnants of prime val forests are still found, the largest in the Koevje area. Grassland covers 5,593 kilometers square and fields and gardens covers 954 kilometers square. There are 363 kilometers square of orchards and 216 kilometers square of vineyards. Geology. Slovenia is at the junction of three important geotectonic units: the Alps to the north, the Dinaric Alps to the south, and the Pannonian Basin to the east. Scientists identify 60 destructive earthquakes in the past. Additionally, a network of seismic stations is active throughout the country. Many parts of Slovenia have a carbonate bedrock and extensive cave systems have developed. Waters. The territory of Slovenia, 16,423 square kilometers, belongs to Black Sea Basin, and a smaller part, 3,850 square kilometers, belongs to Adriatic Sea Basin. These two parts are divided into smaller units in regard to their central rivers: the Mura River Basin, Drava River Basin, Sava River Basin with Kolpa River Basin, and Basin of Adriatic Rivers. In comparison with other developed countries, water quality in Slovenia is considered to be among the highest in Europe. One of the reasons is undoubtedly that most of the rivers rise on the mountainous territory of Slovenia. However, this does not mean that Slovenia has no problems with surface water and groundwater quality, especially in areas with intensive farming. Biodiversity. Slovenia is distinguished by an exceptionally wide variety of habitats due to the contact of geological units and biogeographical regions and human influences. The country is home to 4 terrestrial ecoregions: Dinaric Mountains mixed forests, Pannonian mixed forests, Alps conifer and mixed forests, and Illyrian deciduous forests. Around 12.5% of the territory is protected, with 35.5% in the Natura 2000 ecological network. Despite this, because of pollution and environmental degradation, diversity has been in decline. Animals. The biological diversity of the country is high, with 1% of the world's organisms on 0.004% of the Earth's surface area. There are 75 mammal species, among them marmots, alpine ibex, and chamois. There are numerous deer, roe deer, boar, and hares. The edible dormouse is often found in Slovenian beech forests. Trapping these animals is a long tradition and is a part of the Slovenian national identity. Some important carnivores include the Eurasian lynx, European wild cats, foxes, especially red fox, and European jackal. There are hedgehogs, martins, and snakes such as vipers and grass snakes. Slovenia has 40 to 60 wolves and about 450 brown bears. Slovenia is home to an exceptionally diverse number of cave species, with a few tens of endemic species. Among the cave vertebrates, the only known one is the ome, living in karst, lower Carniola, and white Carniola. The only regular species of cetaceans found in the northern Adriatic Sea is the bottlenose dolphin. There are a wide variety of birds, such as tawny owl, long-eared owl, eagle owl, hawks, and short-toed eagles. Other birds of prey have been recorded, as well as a growing number of ravens, crows and magpies migrating into Ljubljana and Maribor, where they thrive. Other birds include black and green woodpeckers and the white stork, which nests mainly in Prekmurje. There are 13 domestic animals native to Slovenia, and 8 of them are hen, pig, dog, horse, sheep, goat, honeybee and cattle. Among these are karst shepherd, Carniolan honeybee and Lepizan horse. The marble trout or marmorata is an indigenous Slovenian fish. Extensive breeding programs have been introduced to repopulate the marble trout into lakes and streams invaded by non-indigenous species of trout. Slovenia is also home to the Welsh catfish. More than 2,400 fungal species have been recorded from Slovenia. Since this figure does not include lichen-forming fungi, the total number of Slovenian fungi already known is undoubtedly much higher. Many more remain to be discovered. Slovenia is the third most forested country in Europe, with 58.3% of the territory covered by forests. The forests are an important natural resource and logging is kept to a minimum. In the interior of the country are typical Central European forests, predominantly oak and beech. In the mountains, spruce, fir, and pine are more common. Pine trees grow on the karst plateau, although only 1/3 of the region is covered by pine forest. The lime or linden tree, common in Slovenian forests, is a national symbol. The tree line is at 1,700 to 1,800 meters. In the Alps, flowers such as Daphne blagojana, gentians, Primula auricula, Edelweiss, the symbol of Slovene mountaineering, Cypripedium calceolus, Fritillaria meleagris and Pulsatilla grandis are found. Slovenia harbors many plants of ethnobotanically useful groups. Of 59 known species of ethnobotanical importance, some species such as Aconitum napellus, Cannabis sativa and Taxus baccata are restricted for use as per the official Gazette of the Republic of Slovenia. Tourism. Slovenia offers tourists a wide variety of natural and cultural amenities. Different forms of tourism have developed. The tourist gravitational area is considerably large, however the tourist market is small. There has been no large-scale tourism and no acute environmental pressures. In 2017, National Geographic Travelers magazine declared Slovenia as the country with the world's most sustainable tourism. The nation's capital, Ljubljana, has many important Baroque and Vienna Secession buildings, with several important works of the native-born architect Joe Plenick. At the northwestern corner of the country lie the Julian Alps with Lake Bled and the Soa Valley, as well as the nation's highest peak, Mount Triglav in the middle of Triglav National Park. Other mountain ranges include Kamnik Savinja Alps, the Karawanks and Pohorje, popular with skiers and hikers. The karst plateau in the Slovene littoral gave its name to karst, a landscape shaped by water dissolving the carbonate bedrock, forming caves. The best-known caves are Postojna Cave and the UNESCO-listed Cuisine caves. The region of Slovenian Istria meets the Adriatic Sea, where the most important historical monument is the Venetian Gothic Mediterranean town of Piran, while the settlement of Portoro attracts crowds in summer. The hills around Slovenia's second-largest city, Maribor, are renowned for their winemaking. The northeastern part of the country is rich with spas, with Rogarka Slatina, Radenci, Ateb Savi, Dobina, and Moravski Toplice growing in importance in the last 2 decades. Other popular tourist destinations include the historic cities of Tuj and Kofja Loka and several castles, such as Predjama Castle. Important parts of tourism in Slovenia include congress and gambling tourism. Slovenia is the country with the highest percentage of casinos per 1,000 inhabitants in the European Union. Perla in Nova Gorica is the largest casino in the region. Most of foreign tourists to Slovenia come from European markets: Italy, Austria, Germany, Croatia, Belgium, Netherlands, Serbia, Russia and Ukraine, followed by United Kingdom and Ireland. European tourists create more than 90% of Slovenia's tourist income. In 2016, Slovenia was declared the world's first green country by the Netherlands-based organization Green Destinations. On being declared the most sustainable country in 2016, Slovenia had a big part to play at the ITB Berlin to promote sustainable tourism. Transport. Geography has dictated transport routes in Slovenia. Significant mountain ranges, major rivers, and proximity to the Danube played roles in the development of the area's transportation corridors. One recent particular advantage are the pan-European transport corridors V, the fastest link between the North Adriatic and Central and Eastern Europe, and X, linking Central Europe with the Balkans. This gives it a special position in the European social, economic and cultural integration and restructuring. Road. The road freight and passenger transport constitutes the largest part of transport in Slovenia at 80%. Personal cars are much more popular than public road passenger transport, which has significantly declined. Slovenia has a very high highway and motorway density compared to the European Union average. The highway system, the construction of which was accelerated after 1994, has slowly but steadily transformed Slovenia into a large conurbation. Other state roads have been rapidly deteriorating because of neglect and the overall increase in traffic. Railways. The existing Slovenian railways are out of date and have difficulty competing with the motorway network, partially also a result of dispersed population settlement. Due to this fact and the projected increase in traffic through the port of Koper, which is primarily by train, a second rail on the Koper-Divar route is constructed. The railway passenger transport has been recovering after a large drop in the 1990s. Ports. The major Slovenian port is the port of Koper. It is the largest northern Adriatic port in terms of container transport, with almost 590,000 TEUs annually and lines to all major world ports. It is much closer to destinations east of the Suez than the ports of northern Europe. In addition, maritime passenger traffic mostly takes place in Koper. Two smaller ports used for the international passenger transport as well as cargo transport are located in Izola and Piran. Passenger transport mainly takes place with Italy and Croatia. Air transport in Slovenia is very low but has significantly grown since 1991. Of the three international airports in Slovenia, Ljubljana Joe Punik Airport in central Slovenia is the busiest with connections to many major European destinations. The Maribor Edvard Rusjan Airport is located in the eastern part of the country and the Portorož Airport in the west. The state-owned Adria Airways was the largest Slovenian airline. However, in 2019, it declared bankruptcy and ceased operations. Since 2003, several new carriers have entered the market, mainly low-cost airlines. The only Slovenian military airport is the Cerklje Eb Kaki Air Base in the southwest. There are also 12 public airports in Slovenia. Demographic. The population of Slovenia as of June 2024 is 2,118,937. With 103 inhabitants per square kilometre, Slovenia ranks low among the European countries in population density, compared to 402 per square kilometres for Netherlands or 195 per square kilometres for Italy. The Inner Carniola Karst statistical region has the lowest population density, while the Central Slovenia statistical region has the highest. Slovenia is among the European countries with the most pronounced aging of its population, ascribable to a low birth rate and increasing life expectancy. Almost all Slovenian inhabitants older than 64 are retired, with no significant difference between the genders. The working age group is diminishing in spite of immigration. The proposal to raise the retirement age from the current 57 for women and 58 for men was rejected in a referendum in 2011. In addition, the difference among the genders regarding life expectancy is still significant. In 2009, the suicide rate in Slovenia was 22 per 100,000 persons per year, which places Slovenia among the highest-ranked European countries. Nonetheless, from 2000 until 2010, the rate has decreased by about 30%. Ethnic structure. The largest ethnic groups in Slovenia are Slovenes, 83.1%, Serbs, 2%, Croats, 1.8%, Bosniaks, 1.6%, Muslims, 0.5%, Bosnians, 0.4%, Hungarians, 0.3%, Albanians, 0.3%, and Roma, 0.2%. Other ethnic groups in Slovenia include Macedonians, Italians, Montenegrins, and Germans. Language. Official language in Slovenia is Slovene, which is a member of the South Slavic language group. In 2002, Slovene was the native language of around 88% of Slovenia's population according to the census, with more than 92% of the Slovenian population speaking it in their home environment. Hungarian and Italian, spoken by the respective minorities, enjoy the status of official languages in the ethnically mixed regions along the Hungarian and Italian borders, to the extent that even the passports issued in those areas are bilingual. A significant number of people in Slovenia speak a variant of Serbo-Croatian, Serbian, Croatian, Bosnian, or Montenegrin as their native language. These are mostly families who moved to Slovenia from other former Yugoslav republics. Altogether, Serbo-Croatian in its different forms is the second natively spoken language in Slovenia with 5.9% of population. In 2002, 0.4% of the Slovenian population declared themselves to be native speakers of Albanian and 0.2% native speakers of Macedonian. Czech, the fourth largest minority language in Slovenia prior to World War II, after German, Hungarian, and Serbo-Croatian, is now the native language of a few hundred residents of Slovenia. Immigration. The number of people immigrating into Slovenia rose steadily from 1995 and has been increasing even more rapidly in recent years. After Slovenia joined the EU in 2004, the annual number of immigrants doubled by 2006 and increased by half yet again by 2009. In 2007, Slovenia had one of the fastest growing net migration rates in the European Union. Religion. Before World War II, 97% of the Slovenian population identified as members of the Catholic Church in the country. Around 2.5% as Lutheran and 0.5% of residents identified themselves as members of other denominations. After 1945, the country underwent a process of gradual but steady secularization. After a decade of persecution of religions, the communist regime adopted a policy of relative tolerance towards churches. After 1990, the Catholic Church regained some of its former influence, but Slovenia remains a largely secularized society. The 2018 Eurobarometer data shows 73.4% of population identifying as Catholic, that fell to 72.1% in the 2019 Eurobarometer survey. According to the Catholic Church data, the Catholic population fell from 78.04% in 2009 to 72.11% in 2019. The vast majority of Slovenian Catholics belong to the Latin Church. A small number of Eastern Catholics live in the White Carniola region. Heritage. Slovenia's architectural heritage includes 2,500 churches, 1,000 castles, ruins, and manor houses, farmhouses, and special structures for drying hay, called hayracks, kozolci. 4 natural and cultural sites in Slovenia are on the UNESCO World Heritage Site list. Cuisine Caves and its karst landscape are a protected site, as the old forests in the area of Goteniki Snenik and Koevski Rog in the SE Slovenia. The Adrija Mercury mining site is of world importance, as are the prehistoric pile dwellings in the Ljubljana Marsh. The most picturesque church for photographers is the medieval and Baroque building on Bled Island. Near Postojna, there is a fortress called Predjama Castle, half hidden in a cave. Museums in Ljubljana and elsewhere feature unique items such as the controversial Divya Babe flute and the oldest wheel in the world. Ljubljana has medieval, Baroque, Art Nouveau and modern architecture. The architect Plenikes architecture and his innovative paths and bridges along the Ljubeljanica are notable and on UNESCO tentative list. Cuisine. Slovenian cuisine is a mixture of Central European cuisine, especially Austrian and Hungarian, Mediterranean cuisine and Balkan cuisine. Historically, Slovenian cuisine was divided into town, farmhouse, cottage, castle, parsonage and monastic cuisines. Due to the variety of Slovenian cultural and natural landscapes, there are more than 40 distinct regional cuisines. Ethnologically, the most characteristic Slovene dishes were one-pot dishes such as reet, Istrian stew, minestrone and Gansi buckwheat spoonbread. In Prekmurje region, there are bujta ripa and Prekmurska jabanica pastry. Prosciutto is a delicacy of the Slovene littoral. The potica, a type of nut roll, has become a symbol of Slovenia, especially among the Slovene diaspora in the United States. Soups were added to the traditional one-pot meals and various kinds of porridge and stew only in relatively recent history. Each year since 2000, Roasted Potato Festival has been organized by Society for the Recognition of Roasted Potatoes as a distinct dish. Roasted potatoes have been traditionally served in most Slovenian families only on Sundays, have been depicted on a special edition of Postmarks by the Post of Slovenia in 2012. The best-known sausage is Kranjska klobasa. Slovenia is also the home of the world's oldest vine, which is 400 years old. Slovenia has been awarded the European Region of Gastronomy title for the year 2021. Festivals. book fairs, and events. A number of music, theatre, film, book, and children's festivals take place in Slovenia each year, including music festivals Ljubljana Summer Festival and Lent Festival, stand-up comedy Punch Festival, children's Pippi Longstocking Festival, and book festivals Slovene Book Fair and Frankfurt after the Frankfurt. Most notable music festival of Slovene music was historically the Slovenska Popevka Festival. Between 1981 and 2000, Novi Rock Festival was notable for bringing rock music across Iron Curtain from the West to the Slovenian and then Yugoslav audience. The long tradition of jazz festivals in Titoist Yugoslavia began with the Ljubljana Jazz Festival held annually in Slovenia since 1960. Dance. Most notable Slovenian ballet dancers and choreographers were Pino Mlaka, who graduated from Rudolf Laban Choreographic Institute in 1927. Together with his wife, ballerina Maria Luisa Pia Beatrice Scholz, they worked as leading dancer and choreographer in Dessau, Zurich, and State Opera in München. A Mary Wigman modern dance school founded in the 1930s by her student, Meta Vidma in Ljubljana. Theatre. A rich tradition in Slovenia, starting with the 1867 first ever Slovene language drama performance. In addition to the main houses, which include Slovene National Theatre, Ljubljana, and Maribor National Drama Theatre, a number of small producers are active in Slovenia, including Physical Theatre, Beton Tank, Street Theatre, Anna Monroe Theatre, Theatre Sports Championship Impro League, and Improvisational Theatre, IGLU Theatre. A popular form is puppetry, mainly performed in the Ljubljana Puppet Theatre. Visual arts, architecture, and design. Slovenia's visual arts, architecture, and design are shaped by a number of architects, designers, painters, sculptors, photographers, graphics artists, as well as comics, illustration, and conceptual artists. Two significant prestigious institutions exhibiting works of Slovene visual artists are the National Gallery of Slovenia and the Museum of Modern Art. Modern architecture in Slovenia was introduced by Max Fabiani and in the mid-war period, Joe Plenick and Ivan Vernik. In the second half of the 20th century, the national and universal style were merged by the architects Edvard Ravnica and first generation of his students, Milan Miheli, Stanko Kristal, Savin Seva. The next generation is mainly still active, including Marko Mui, Vojtech Ravnica, and Jurij Kobi. Selected works of Joe Plenick, which shaped Ljubljana during the interwar period, were inscribed on UNESCO's list of World Heritage Sites in 2021. A number of conceptual visual art groups formed, including OHO, Group 69, and Irwin. Nowadays, the Slovene visual arts are diverse, based on tradition, reflect the influence of neighboring nations, and are intertwined with modern European movements. Internationally most notable Slovenian design items include the 1952 Rex chair, a Scandinavian design-inspired wooden chair by interior designer Nico Kral that was given in 2012 a permanent place in Design Museum, Denmark, the largest museum of design in Scandinavia, and is included in the collection of the Museum of Modern Art MoMA in New York City. An industrial design item that has changed the international ski industry is Elan SCX by Elan Company. The renewal of Slovene sculpture begun with Aloj Skangl, who created sculptures for the public monuments of the Carniolan polymath Johann Weikard von Valvasa and Valentin Vodnik, the first Slovene poet and journalist, as well as the genius of the theatre and other statues for the Slovenian National Opera and Ballet Theatre building. The development of sculpture after World War II was led by a number of artists including brothers Boris and Zdenko Kalin. Jacob Savanek stayed with figural art. Younger sculptors include Janez Boljka, Drago Tra, and particularly Slavo Tihek, moved towards abstract forms. Jakov Budar and Mirsad Bejic returned to human figures. During World War II, numerous graphics were created by Bojda Jakak, who helped establish the post-war Academy of Visual Arts in Ljubljana. In 1917, Hinko Smreka illustrated Fran Levstik's book about the well-known Slovene folk hero Martin Kapan. The children's book's illustrators include a number of women illustrators, such as Marlenka Stupica, Maria Lucija Stupica, Anka Garnik Godek, Marjanka Jemek Boy, and Jelka Reichman. Historically, painting and sculpture in Slovenia was in the late 18th and the 19th century marked by neoclassicism, Matev Langus, Biedermeier, Giuseppe Tamins, and Romanticism, Michael Stroy. The first art exhibition in Slovenia was organized in late 19th century by Ivana Kabilka. Impressionist artists include Matej Sternen, Motija Jama, Rihard Jacopi, Ivan Grohar, whose The Sower was depicted on the Slovenian euro 5 cents coins. Frank Bernecker, who introduced Impressionism to Slovenia. Expressionist painters include Vino Pilon and Tone Kral, whose picture book, reprinted 13 times, is now the most recognizable image of Martin Kapan. Some of the best-known painters in the second half of the 20th century were Zoran Mui, Gabriel Stupica, and Marij Prigelj. In 1841, Janez Puhar invented a process for photography on glass, recognized on the 17th of June 1852 in Paris by the Académie Nationale Agricole, Manufacturière et Commerciale. Gojmir Anton Kos was a notable realist painter and photographer between First World War and WW2.